Welcome to another episode of the Trailer Island podcast. Yeah, we're into Australia month at the moment. I'm your host, Alex, and as every week, we're joined by...
Rams McCardle.
And...
Sheepy Williams.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with it. I mean,
Yeah.
No, I've said it now.
That seems entirely appropriate.
It's on brand.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Great. All right, anyway.
No, I could have said Matthew Williams, couldn't I? That would have been better.
Such a disappointment.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sure it's not the first time we've heard being called a disappointment.
Wow, already with the personal attacks. All right, let's go. Let's do it.
So we compare films and their trailers on the Trailer Island podcast because we're stuck on this tropical island and we've got nothing else to do. So that's what we do. Did the film deliver what the trailer promised? And this week we've got a third film in our instalment of Australian Film Month. And it's a recent release, end of 2020, was it?
Yes.
Was it December, was it?
No, it was October.
Oh, really?
It was October, yeah.
Okay.
Well, because we managed to get it on physical media.
We did. I did miss this in cinemas. And so I went down to our local beach Blu-ray store and bought it on Blu-ray. And so we all sort of shared a copy of that, really.
That's a quick turnaround for a physical media, isn't it?
Very quick turnaround. I was surprised, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's begun, hasn't it? Who would like to introduce this week's film?
Well, I better do it, seeing as this month has just been torture. Let's just make it torture. This week's film is the film Rams.
Look at you, my beauties. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. But you're the best.
This is the one we've all been waiting for, folks. The Calvin Horn Ram Judging.
Fine ram, all right? He's gonna be a busy boy, I reckon.
What do you mean?
Okay, the Grimacin brothers find themselves the last two standing yet again. And Les Grimacin is the winner.
Oh, come on, Cole, cheer up.
Right,
You two haven't spoken in 40 years. Why start now?
Les's ram. He's sick.
Farmers have been shocked by the discovery of a highly infectious disease.
They're mine! Don't take them, mate!
A control plan has been put in place in the hope of containing the outbreak.
I reckon we spent half our lives in here.
It means everything to them.
That's it, mate. They're taking the whole bloody valley.
Why don't they take us while they're at it? Finish the job.
You gotta follow the rules. No kidding. Oh, my lovely girls.
Smells like sheep.
No sheep.
A lot of air freshener, eh? I know what you got in your house.
You kept some.
I had to. You what? We find those sheep, he is done.
That is advertising a different film.
Okay, so right out of the gates.
What a
Right
lovely,
out of the
cheery trailer.
Right out of the gates. This is why I don't like Australian films, all right? Because this film is not that perky.
No.
And
Very much not
it is
so.
marketing itself to the Australian people in the way that only Australian movies know how, by here's the landscape and here's the people.
I would look. I know tonight's going to be interesting. Well, sorry, I should when a time is just a construct, but I think tonight might be interesting because I don't know when people are listening, do I? You know, it's whenever you're listening. I might actually side with Steve on this one tonight.
Yeah.
This could be interesting.
I'm erring
Do
on
it.
the side of Steve as well.
Yeah.
I've seen many sides of Steve, and this is the one that I'm probably most comfortable with.
I watched that trailer last night, and then just so we'll get into this later, but I actually watched the Swedish original film trailer.
I don't think it's Swedish.
It's Scandinavian. Well, I watched that trailer, and that trailer is a lot more dark.
Yeah.
The Scandinavian trailer looks
Icelandic.
That looks
not Europe.
So from the country that brought you Ya Ya Ding Dong,
Oh, that's a deep cut right there. Yeah, that's the Icelandic version of this trailer looks a lot darker, a lot more indie as well.
Well, let's clarify something here. So this Rams film is a remake of an Icelandic film which came out in approximately 2015.
Yeah.
And the rights were acquired to make an Australian version of it, and that's what we're reviewing this evening. Now, none of us here have seen the original version, and after seeing this, I'm very interested to see how that version of it pans out, because this, I don't know, because we've seen films translated before into different formats, and Australia is a good place to bring a film about sheep, because farming sheep and rams and everything is part of the land here.
I would say it's a logical decision to make a remake here. I can see why that would look good.
Yeah, I think it's like, if you look at the trailer for the Icelandic one, it's very similar in the sense of the nature of the severity of the place that it takes place. But I don't know that this film translates very well.
I disagree.
It's hard to comment on without having seen the original. I would suggest, and as we get into more of the plot, I have a few points I think where perhaps too much effort has been made to take what is perhaps quite a simple premise and add Australian elements to it.
Oh, man. Everything you're just saying is just beautiful stuff.
I have a feeling that they took what was a very clear-cut story and thought, great, let's not only set this in Australia and cast Australian and New Zealand actors, but let's also add story elements and side plots that weren't in the original that are an Australian flavour to varying degrees of success.
Steve, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling like we should get into the fleece of this film, shall we? There's going to be a lot of sheep puns tonight. I can barely contain myself.
Oh, boy. So what is this film about? We've got two brothers played by Sam Neill and Michael Caton.
Yeah, as we discussed when we talked about The Dish, the uncle you never thought you needed.
We have done a lot of Sam Neill films.
We've only done... This is only the second one, I think, so far.
That feels like a lot.
It is the second one in a row, I suppose. So
I just know that we're looking to the future. I know at one point we're going to do The Hunt for Red October, and that's another Sam Neill film. We're getting sidetracked. So, two brothers haven't spoken to each other for 40 years. They both work on essentially what we find out is the same farm, but it's split right down the middle because... they no longer get along with each other.
And I like that structure. Just
great.
As a premise for your characters, that is terrific.
That's great.
What a solid what's the word? Premise.
Setup.
Thank you, setup, yes. It's immediately apparent to you, the audience member, what the situation is. This film actually does start quite well with Sam Neill just, farming, doing the farming things, and he notices that one of a sheep has given birth on the other side of this fence. And we just learn almost immediately through the way he looks to the neighbouring property and the way he gets over that fence that he shouldn't really be jumping over that fence. Then he carries it up, like not a single word is spoken. He carries it up to this building, puts the lamb down, knocks on the door and starts to walk away. Michael Caton answers the door, and Sam Neill just points, going, I found the mum's down there and she's not very well. I think she's actually dead.
It's all done with physical actions.
Yeah, that's it. No dialogue, but you completely... you don't understand that they're brothers, obviously, but you completely understand that they don't talk to one another.
Yeah, now, Michael Caton is Les and Sam Neill is Colin.
Yeah.
So Colin and Les, they take their sheep their rams, they take their rams to the local show. So they head to Mount Barker and they're going to take their rams and they're going to have a little show and they're going to put them on show.
Actually, sorry, can I jump in, Alex? Because I have one massive question. I am not... this is going to sound a little lewd, and I apologise to the ladies and gentlemen listening. I've never really examined a ram before, but are the testes of a ram that big? Like, is that accurate? Or...
I believe that they weren't stunt testes. They were real testes.
They look fake.
Really?
The way that, again, I don't want to get... I was looking at going, have they constructed this for comedy's purposes? The way that it's framed, the way that... everyone always seems to come up at this fair and then go, let's have a look at this ram's testes. It's like, is this like a fabricated joke, or is this based on actual anatomy of a ram.
Everyone knows that the softest wall is on the testes. Everyone.
I don't quite think that that's the science behind it. I think it's got more about its breeding capabilities.
Sure. No, and I got that. I was just questioning the realism.
They drew quite a lot of attention to it,
They
didn't
do,
they?
yes. It's in the trailer, actually, funnily enough. So if anyone's interested
Yeah.
in this weird kind of comedic framing that I'm talking about, that shot is in the trailer.
There's a lot of testicle play, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think we'll come back to how comedy is played out in this film.
Yeah.
But so as it turns out, Les wins the show off between the two brothers, and which because it's in the trailer, so there's no spoiler there. And Colin goes back to the sheds after everything sort of calmed down because he's lost out to Les, and he goes, well, hang on, why? What's so special about this? Because there was something that they mentioned specifically. He's having a feel of the ram, and he just realizes, hang on, there might be something wrong with this ram. Like it's got symptoms of something that of a disease that we fear might be in the valley now. And it starts to unravel from there.
Now, of course, and I think the film does this quite well, we're all very aware perhaps of how easily diseases can travel because of what's happened in the last 12 months, but this ram with this disease has been brought to this competition where rams from all over the valley have also come to.
Yeah.
So as obviously the big fear now is suddenly they've all got it and they're all going to go back and spread it to everyone else, and that's unfortunately very much indeed, I don't think this is a spoiler at all.
No.
That's in fact exactly what happens.
Well, that's the main drive of the movie right there.
Exactly. And absolute disaster. This valley, as far as I can tell from the film, makes it out that looking after these sheep and these rams and this livestock is what this valley thrives on.
Well, it's that, and they're breeding a unique breed of sheep as well.
Yes, that's quite important, isn't it, to them?
Yeah, they're very proud about the fact that they don't breed in those generic merinos.
The beginning of this film, the first half, I think, plays out more or less quite well. And but like we say, it's a lot heavier than that trailer suggests.
Oh yeah,
because it's not very long until obviously the government officials come down, the health officials come down, and we've got to slaughter all these animals because the one thing the film doesn't make clear, by the way, is I'm assuming these animals are now obviously unsafe to eat. But obviously, no.
You're wondering if you get some free mutton.
No. My point is, I'm assuming this disease can't be caught by humans unless they consume the livestock.
Well, like the government guys are in biohazard suits.
Yeah, but none of the
that's a little
farmers
bit-
are. And I just wondered, the film's not clear. It's like, does Sam Neill also have this disease now?
I think it's just a matter of I would suspect that those people that are dealing with the sheep from the government have to deal with a variety of different things, so they're just trying to prevent the spread.
Yeah,
because they'll be
sure.
going other places.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry, if I may, just very quickly, my favourite scene in this film, not because it's like, it's not cheery, but I just think Sam Neill plays it so well, and it was really moving, is the government want to take away the animals and deal with them humanely, but in a facility. And Sam Neill's character is very much like, no, these have been raised here, and he sort of wants to take him out humanely, but on his own terms. And so he sort of one evening sits down, and I think he has a drink of something, and then it's really tragic, goes and shoots them all.
See, I think that's the strength of this film, is when it doesn't play into the comedy.
I completely agree.
When it gets into the dark nitty gritty, you really understand at the beginning of this film that all of these people's identities are wrapped up in the idea of farming and these sheeps. And when Sam Neill kills all the sheep, you feel it.
Oh, yeah. And he's
really
devastated as well. Like he clearly loves his animals, and you just feel for him so much that what a big deal it is. Like this is an absolute tragedy.
And that's where I really feel like this film wasted too much time trying to be funny in parts.
Yeah.
And it absolutely flopped when it tried to be funny. And the acting up to be like ochre Australian farmers
So
was just like, oh, come on.
When we did The Dish, we were talking about, or you mentioned rather, sort of how that film was kind of slapstick, but not slapstick. It still felt, well, to most of us at least, it still felt quite real. Whereas this film, I felt like the comedy was absolutely played for slapstick and also just didn't work. So the chief government guy, or rather the guy who seems to be having all the dealings with Sam Neill, his character's presented as kind of just manic buffoon kind of character. So he's played for comedy, but I think he should have been played as a threatening character.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And none of his... It's nothing against the actor. It's the way that it's been directed and written. But none of his jokes or his funny moments ever land.
Yeah.
He didn't make me laugh once.
They should have really lent in to how dark some of the themes are in this film.
Yeah.
I feel like when it does double down on the seriousness of this situation, that's when this film actually really shines. And if we can bring it back to the dish again, we talked about, well, you guys talked about how good some of the things unsaid in that film really were, and I disagreed. And I feel like this film actually gets the unsaid part of filmmaking really, really well. You've got a relationship here between two brothers who haven't talked in years that gets fleshed out without a word.
Yeah, I liked that.
And it's not until the last maybe third of the film where actually one of these two brothers actually says something to one another, and it's hey matey, you're right. And it hits so hard.
I would completely agree with you there.
See, they do that well, but then it's counteracted by all the other characters saying everything that they're thinking that doesn't leave anything to be imagined. Like there's a lovely, a potentially lovely scene where a bunch of the other farmers are in the pub and they're all chatting and stuff, and then the thing comes up about people going, "I'm going to leave." And the other's like, "What do you mean you're leaving? You can't leave." Blah, blah, blah. And that scene could have been played so much better, but it's just full of, "Oh, I can't believe you're leaving.
I'll knock your socks off, I will."
And
it could have been played where they're just still sitting in silence.
Yeah, it could have been.
And it just
really
someone just says, "I'm leaving," and that's it.
You cut the tension with the knife right there.
And that's all you need to do. You don't need to have all this. We're sitting in an RSL and we're sitting around having a few bevies and we're going to talk about leaving. And it's just like, guys.
And that's what really annoyed me is I think the film does admittedly do a very good job of making you care, at least for Sam Neill's character, because you don't really meet Les properly until a bit later on. But you are rooting for him. And then the film merely coasts on the goodwill of Sam Neill, and his performance is actually very good. But after a few very badly timed comedic slapstick moments by characters you couldn't care less about, that goodwill really starts to wear thin. And this brings me to another one of my biggest grievances, which is I understand the film is set in Australia, but why is there a subplot about bushfires?
I didn't mind that.
It makes sense.
Right. Please explain it to me.
Let me explain this to you. So, in the background of this film, about a third the way through, a bushfire occurs in the mountain range nearby, and they're all farmers. They're all country fire volunteers, and part of the story that Sam Neill's character talks about is a fire in the past where all these all the fresh roots and shoots and leaves and everything come out of the ground. And which plays into the plot which happens at the end. Now, we know in the story they decide to, because it's in the trailer, Sam Neill's character, Colin, saves some of the sheep. He's done a very naughty thing because he can't bring himself to destroy all of the sheep. And part of that is escaping to where the fire is. Now, I imagine part of that is that it gives them a reason to go to that area because there's going to be all this fresh stuff for the sheep to eat in the future. Right. I think that's sort of it. And another point about
it wouldn't be diseased, I suppose, because it's new growth.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Sure, why not?
Sure.
The film doesn't want you to think too hard about it, I think. But what thing I did actually like about this, I felt that they represented the threat and the fighting of a bushfire quite well. I found that bit the most engaging because I felt like the pacing in this was quite poor.
I would agree. Yes.
And I honestly got bored watching this movie.
I definitely didn't get bored, but I would agree it drags a bit in places.
There's too many subplots sitting around just trying to fill time. It could have been 90 minutes, could have been a tight story. I feel like Colin's love interest story was a bit bleh.
Now, this is a shame because Miranda Richardson is a terrific actress.
She is.
And I think she's trying to do her best with perhaps very limited direction in this.
Yeah.
Because whilst both Sam Neill and Miranda Richardson are both very charismatic, I can't say it. Charismatic, thank you. Charismatic actors. And they do bounce off of each other quite well. I still didn't believe their relationship.
No.
And I don't think that's their fault. Like I said, they're both very good actors. And it's just, it felt forced. It felt like you must believe that
I didn't feel any chemistry between. So Kat is her character's name. And Colin.
The vet.
I was like, why are you? I get, yes, you're the vet who confirms that the issue is there, but I don't know.
And she doesn't really do anything other. Well, we won't get into spoilers, but she doesn't do much throughout the rest of the film other than occasionally turn up and try and woo him with some, hey, I've made you some dinner, or do you want a glass of wine at Christmas, which is all very sweet. But other than that, it's like, she's just a distraction. Just so we're aware, she plays Rita Skeeter in Harry Potter. And amongst many other roles, I think she was in Blackadder as well, as she's Queenie. Many, many different roles. And I just thought she was a bit wasted in this.
I do agree with you about the wasted sort of, well, maybe not wasted, I would say excessive subplots.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm sort of really keen to actually sit down and watch the Icelandic film, because... I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I feel like it's going to be a lot lot more concise.
You think it'll be a finer cut of fillet?
Yeah, I do.
It's a very extravagant...
A closer shade. In terms of pacing, I didn't mind the first 2/3 of the film. I thought where Cole and Les start to go on a little bit of a road trip at the end there, sort of dragged on.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really, really long-winded bit. I also thought the ending was quite sudden. Like it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I did not like the ending of this film, and I won't say what it is because it's a new film. And look, you should go and see it. I think there's some very worthwhile things. Sam Neill, like I say, I might be a little biased because obviously I think you guys are probably saying we've grown up with Sam Neill from our childhood, from Jurassic Park, probably being one of our first exposures to him, and then to all the other more adult films he's done. I just feel inclined to like him regardless of what he does. But I do think his performance in this is actually very good and very measured. And he's probably the only person who, when he does comedy, the moments actually land.
I thought Caden had some good bits.
I thought Wayne Blair's character, Lionel.
He was fantastic.
He was really good.
Which one was Lionel?
He's the Indigenous Australian who
I liked him, yes. Yeah. But I thought he was going to be more integral in helping Colin and Les. I thought he would have had more to do in the end. It's hard to talk about the end without ruining it, I know. But
now, it's an interesting concept to bring out in a year of global pandemic because we think about the plot here. So a whole valley of sheep is potentially ravaged by this disease. It could potentially kill a lot more. And our lead character decides to not have that happen, save some of them. And sheep that could be potentially diseased, even though, we're pretty sure that they're fine.
I mean, we hate the administrator in this film, but...
Should we?
He has a point.
Ultimately, he's like, well, this disease could spread. We need to deal with it.
And that's why I'm annoyed that he's played for comedy. I think especially... I'm not sure when this was shot, if it was shot before the pandemic or afterwards, but I think if he was played as a more threatening presence, not because he's a villain, but because he is oath-bound to do the right thing by the health of everyone and make sure all these sheep are put down, it would have raised some more interesting questions about Colin's actions because, you think about if people don't get COVID tested, they are a villain, aren't they? Like we don't like those people. You've got to do the right thing.
If they don't get themselves treated, they're a villain.
Exactly. So it's like you say, it's an interesting concept to bring up where you're kind of rooting for this guy who has disobeyed rules that are put in place, I think, for very understandable reasons. However, there is a conversation with the vet where she does sort of say, this is actually a little bit of overkill.
On the other hand...
But on the other hand, why take the chance? I mean, people eat this stuff, don't they? So
on the other hand, those sheep and the rams, they self-isolate quite successfully. When they need to exercise, they go out in pairs, well, as a group, as a self-contained group. They go out for a half an hour, they come back in... and they are checked by someone quite well known to them, who's not afraid to touch testicles.
No, he's definitely not. I actually kind of loved how he'd cut out bits in the walls of his house, so when no one was around, it turned into more of a stable kind of thing. That was actually really cool.
That was actually quite well done. It was a bit of Wallace and Gromit trickery.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
It's odd. I actually really found myself enjoying this film.
I definitely enjoyed the first 3 quarters, but when he goes on that road trip, I know he's potentially, because of his role in the castle, may be considered, I'm not an expert, maybe something of a national treasure, Michael Keaton perhaps, just he's quite recognisable as an Australian actor. I found his performance a little lackluster.
I'd have to thoroughly disagree.
There are 2 moments that stand out to me. One I can't talk about because it's the end, but I thought it could have been done better. But the moment where the government turn up to his side of the farm and take his sheep, and he's obviously very upset and doesn't want to take them. I thought could have been more powerful just in his performance.
So that played well, just right for me.
Okay,
I really, as it was, the camera angles, you're looking into it as almost a voyeur. But I like that.
Yeah, but that's my point, though. Is I loved the way it was constructed. I just found his performance to be a little weak,
and that's what I'm saying to you is that I felt like the performance suited the actual scene that was constructed for it.
Okay, that's fair enough. I just think he could have gritted his teeth a little bit more.
Okay,
he also looks incredibly old. So
he does.
Yeah, he has not. I mean, Sam Neill's aged like a fine wine, but I don't know how much of it was performative and makeup.
Having watched the Icelandic, the original version of the trailer, that shot almost is shot for shot.
Yeah, I was a little bit.
When he's getting taken away, or there's quite a few shots that seem shot for shot. So
are you disappointed by that?
I don't have a problem with it. I have no problem with it being quite a similar sort of thing. What I am worried about is the Australiana of it.
Yeah,
is probably overstated and oversaturated for something that didn't really need to be there. And I did have a bit of a giggle when watching the opening shots are just all landscape shots of Australia.
Yeah, I did.
And I thought to myself, Steve's going to hate that.
Yeah,
we have a kangaroo shot in this film. We have the kangaroo shot.
It is a smoking carcass, but of course,
but it is a roo.
I thought to myself watching the beginning of this film, Margaret River's going to get a lot of tourists this year.
Yeah. But I was kind of like, I'm interested to see if any of these shots play into the plot of the film whatsoever.
Look, a little bit.
And yes, a little bit.
It does set up a little bit of the geography around the farm, which does come into it in the later parts of the movie. But I think we all know that it was primarily there so that Tourism WA could hopefully sell some tourist tickets to people interstate.
Yeah, well, if they let us in.
Yes.
But is there anything wrong with that?
It's the same reason why I don't like going to car lots. It's because I don't like the feeling of being sold to all the time.
Okay.
If I'm going to a car lot, I just want to talk about the car I'm looking at the moment. You don't need to sell me on it. I'm looking at the car right now. Okay, I can see the pros and cons of Western Australia. You don't need to sell it on me. Also, want to point out, let's just hope that WA does break away and this is actually a foreign film and it kind of takes it out of the running for Australia month, doesn't it?
Where does that come from?
It comes from Succession.
I don't think WA's quite, declared itself a republic yet.
Wow.
All that is sheep and all that.
I kind of like the young Ocker Australia guy they got in there. I thought he was endearing.
He didn't do anything for the plot. Again, this is what we're talking about. This is like the superfluous character sort of thing.
But he represents the young country Australian.
G'day. He's a character. He's a larrikin.
I'm the future of farming.
He's a larrikin for sure.
I'm going to stay on the land.
I feel like we're getting into the Simpsons version of Australian accents.
Hey, Mel, get off the day roof.
I'm going to talk to the Prime Minister. Oi, Prime Minister!
Coffee.
Could I talk about talking about the comedy? Look, I'm not an expert on these things, which is clearly why I made this mistake in the film. But there's Colin, Sam Neill's character, decides to shelter these remaining sheep and keep them alive because he wants to keep them alive, and he needs to feed them. So he's growing grass in a green room inside his house. When we're introduced to this, we are actually not aware that he's kept sheep. And like I said, I'm not a huge expert on such things. So when he opened up the cupboard and you saw the blue light and stuff growing, I thought, has he, in his depression after killing all his sheep, just become a drug dealer? I honestly thought the film was going to take that turn until I realized, oh, no, wait, no, it's just grass so he can feed his sheep.
Wouldn't that have been an interesting turn of
events?
And I
thought, okay, that's brave to do that.
Earlier on, when he's at the vet's office, the vet cat is making herself a grass juice out of exactly the same stuff. So he's obviously got the idea from her.
Yeah, and that I just didn't join the dots at the time.
Okay.
I just, because he before that, you go, okay, he's killed his sheep, his brother's sheep have been taken, and then it's like, however many months later or so, and I thought he looked a little sad. you don't know that he's kept sheep alive. I thought, is this going to turn into some kind of drug dealer film? Like, what's happening?
You're worried that Sam Neill's going to break bad?
I didn't want Sam Neill to be corrupted by the government.
That's fair. That's fair.
Anyway, but like I say, just a misconception on my part.
Let's put our hands beneath the legs of this movie and actually give this movie a rating.
What's something the film's related to?
Rotting prawns, which is something that you would understand from the film.
Generic rum bottles.
Generic rum bottles? Not sure what that reference is.
Oh, you're talking about...
Michael Caton was drinking a lot of rum.
Yeah, he's sozzled. Bushfires.
Cooked kangaroo.
Dead roos, I think. Come on, it's the first... We've been doing Australia Month, and we haven't actually had a shot in any of these films of a kangaroo, and now we do. It's a charred roo.
Ram testicles.
Let's go with charred ram testicles. No. Charred roos.
A dish somewhere.
Charred roos. Let's go with that. Charcoal.
Oh, well, I'll go first if that's all right then. I did enjoy this film, and like I say, I went in very much wanting to like it. I thought, here we go on a... Again, that trailer does definitely make it seem a lot cheerier than it actually is. However, I was happy that it took a darker turn, at least initially. But then because I was so happy with that turn, I became increasingly frustrated when the film tried to keep dragging me back to comedy. I thought, no, just pick a tone and stick with it. I do like the premise. I do like the story, despite its clunkiness at times. And like I've said a few times, I do think Sam Neill was actually very good in this film. When I watched this, I had to watch Hunt for the Wilder People immediately afterwards because there's something about Sam Neill being a rustic farmer that just suits him so well. So I had to do a double billing. No, I enjoyed the film. I would sit down to watch it again. I think it's got a lot of merit. And I think it's got some heart. It may be forced, but it's got some heart. I'm going to give it 3.5.
It's a good rating. I'm going to give it 3.
Okay.
Relative to me, it's pretty good.
That's not bad.
What I would say is that whoever developed the trailer for this movie really they fail to understand the audience. They are shockingly bad at advertising movies for Australian audiences, because if they were forthcoming in just saying that this is a pretty dark and bleak sort of film, I would have been like, cool, this maybe has my attention. All right, I might be able to withstand the Aussie battlers for a little bit and watch the film. I think things need to be tightened up substantially, and some of the dialogue in this film is very clunky, and that's in contrast to some really, really good, not a word said sort of moments. You know, lots of really good character moments where there's no word shed between two characters with a layered history. I think it does that really well. It struggles with tone, and I think probably for the first time on this podcast, the trailer really actually turned me off the film.
Oh,
and I actually probably lost points because of it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair that it should too, given the concept of what this podcast is all about.
Yeah. So 3 from me.
Well, you know, both of you made really good points that I don't feel like I need to repeat. Like, I found that it was clunky in parts. The dialogue was a bit iffy. Sam Neill is fantastic. Part of me wishes that this is part of the Jurassic Park universe and that post Jurassic Park, he's gone back home and he's just, decided to get back into sheep farming.
I am going to rewatch this film immediately with that in mind.
And just imagine if a T-Rex turned up. Now, that would be cool.
What a finale.
I don't think the film should have been called Rams. It gives you an idea that it's a light-hearted story about animals, and it's not. No. Not at all. But the film tries to go, you know what, maybe we should just line things up a bit. But in the face of it, it doesn't work at all. It should have been called, I don't know, The Paddock or something like that. I don't know. It wasn't what I hoped it would be.
Yeah. One point on that, though,
yes,
is that the Icelandic film is also called Rams.
No, I know.
I know. But I think this is a question of marketing, and the posters, the trailer for this are all light, upbeat, wonderful pastel colors, whereas the poster for Rams in Iceland is like this monotone, sort of real serious.
Yeah, there's this wonderful Technicolor Dreamcoat posters for the Australian version. Like Michael Caton's put a funny face on, like, I'm the larrikin in this film.
He does not smile in this movie.
No, he is an alcoholic and 2 brothers who hate each other. And everything about the advertising of this film said, look at these guys, they haven't chatted in a while, but you know what's going to bring them together? something magical and a miracle's going to happen on the farm. And it's, not quite.
Yeah.
So what are you going to give it?
Your rating. How many dead roos?
2.5.
Ooh. Okay.
I was going to give it 2, but you guys kind of convinced me a little bit more in the upwards, so I'm going to go 2.5.
Can I just say that it's actually a little bit refreshing that a trailer has a sizable part of what we've got to talk about tonight. Like that, this is the real like focus of what we're doing.
This is what, episode 38 or something?
Something like that.
This is the nitty-gritty of like what we do when this podcast is there are examples like this that absolutely just missell a film. Pretend it's something that it's not. This is a way better film than this trailer is pretending that it is.
I would suggest watching this film without seeing the trailer.
Yeah.
Because the trailer will missell you elements.
Or if you want things to change in Australia, watch the trailer, watch the film, and then complain to Village Roadshow.
Well, see, and maybe that's what it is. I went in thinking it was going to be this particular film, and it wasn't that at all. And that kind of just turned me off of it. I was like, well, this isn't what I was expecting.
Whereas I was pleasantly surprised to see it playing a little more seriously. And then, but then, like I said, I just got really annoyed when it then tried to turn that around and be funny again. It's like, no. Like, this guy's had to kill all his sheep.
Yeah.
You roll with that now and the consequences of that. You don't just have some government guy going, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm useless. I can't even use a pen properly. You just don't do that.
Is anyone going to try and sit down and watch the Icelandic version?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to try and track it down and watch it.
Does it have Sam Neill in it?
No, but it's got people with Icelandic accents.
Oh, that could be
that's
good.
just a blessing.
That is fun, yes. Oh, look, the theme music.
Yeah, I don't know.
Contemplate my own mortality now.
Well, see, I'm really concerned because I feel like I was more Steve than Steve with this week.
Yeah, well done,
yeah.
Steve. Round of applause.
You guys are feeding off my hatred, and I just love it.
Sorry, we've got one more film. We'll still try and we can get you up to a 5 on the next film.
Next week, if we ever do it, I'm going to make you all despise the castle.
We're not doing the castle.
I'm going to make you all see the castle for what it is.
The castle's
Too
been
bit chill for corporate lawyers.
Whoa.
All right. Anyway, so we've been the Trailer Island podcast, and that was the 3rd film in our series of Australian Films for Australia month. Now, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Google, Apple, all those sorts of things. You can head to the website, www.trailerisland.com.au. If your friends haven't heard about us, let them know. Okay, hey, you know what? We've got these guys from Australia. They're doing a podcast. It would really help us out if you shared that. Wherever you listen to us, give us a 5-star review. That helps us find more audience numbers and people. And the more that we can get into the show, the more you can give us suggestions, and that would mean a lot to us. We've got a lot of requests coming up soon. Don't worry, if you sent one in, you will get it soon enough. I've been Alex, and this week I've been joined by
Matthew.
Harry Balls McCardle.
Oh, that's pushing it, isn't it?
Matt, sign off for me, please.
See you, everyone. Good night.
Meh.
This is a Narrative Network podcast.